That's your fucking power? You can control shit?
Well, it's better than yours, dickface.
Rise up, my turd friend!
Yo, what's up guys? So when I first started watching The Boys, I already knew what the Deep was on. Everyone did. Like, he's objectively a terrible person. Nothing like the Aquaman from DC he's standing in for, even though he still gets his hate and is actually more similar to his comic counterpart. Because aside from the looks, no one cares about him either. He's just a side character, you know, barely mentioned in the comics. And it's the same in the show, no one cares about him as well, but this time he's one of the main characters. And when it comes to the writing, I love the fact that they shed light on more relatable topics through the Deep, like his development of an inferiority complex, as well as other things like depression, body dysmorphia, corrupt churches, and all kinds of harassment in the workplace. But the main point of this video is his inferiority complex and how it was exploited by Homelander. So let's talk about that. Let's analyze how this major flaw developed in the first place, how it affected him throughout the show, and what happens when a superiority complex meets an inferiority complex. All to figure out how he'll be in the final season of The Boys. But before we start, we first have to understand what an inferiority complex even is. According to the APA, this mental condition is a basic feeling of inadequacy and insecurity deriving from actual or imagined physical or psychological limitations. But it's more than that, because we all occasionally feel inferior to others, you know? That's just life. It turns into a complex though when you constantly feel these feelings and are never able to overcome or move past those feelings of insecurity, which the Deep has never done even from childhood. And this is actually where this complex starts for him. So according to the Boys Wiki, he's had a pretty normal childhood until he joined the swim team, which is honestly pretty funny. It's like he was being called to the sea. But this is when his powers started to develop, which I'm sure looked disgusting, especially back in the 80s or 90s when those sorts of things probably weren't as common as it is today. And I say that because it resulted in one of his teammates actually throwing up in his gills. Like, honestly, how can you not think less of yourself when someone literally throws up inside of you because of how you look? And from there on, and even till this day, he feels the need to hide his gills. It's something he's highly insecure about. Afterwards, he began hearing the thoughts of every form of aquatic life he encountered, and the gills on his body formed even more. So his insecurities grew until his mom told him that these powers were a gift. And I think he clinged on to these words. It inflated his ego, you know, giving him a false sense of confidence. And I say this because he often overestimates his abilities and what he can do, which is why even though he comes from a good place, his solo adventures, like when he tried to save that dolphin, still never goes that well. But yeah, it gave him a false sense of confidence, and using that, he became successful.
Oh, hi there. I'm the Deep.
Boy, if you don't...
Graduating number 6 at God U and being a founding member of the world's greatest superhero team, the Seven. So to me, he got both of these things, you know, that false confidence and that insecurity from childhood. But his feelings of inferiority increased over time because on top of feeling insecure about his body, he also went into a toxic work environment. The amount of times he got verbally abused by Homelander is monumental, bro. They both made sure to show how superior they are to him almost every day, making fun of his powers and not showing any kind of interest in anything he's interested in, which is something the Deep brings up in therapy. And because of this abuse in his childhood, he developed an inferiority complex. And the crazy thing is, you actually see the symptoms of this complex play out in real time throughout the show. Like number 1, intentionally making others feel insecure to make up for feelings of inadequacy. This played out during his treatment with women, right? Demeaning and even blackmailing Starlight for S3-actual purposes on the very first episode. And he also has a history of harassing, humiliating, and assaulting most of the women he came across before season 1 as well, thinking they would do the same to him if they found out about his skills, which actually did end up happening to him.
Ow, it's tender. Ow! Oh my god!
Number 2, pulling away from family, friends, and colleagues, especially in social situations. This is something he talks about during therapy in season 1. He feels alienated when everyone laughs and mocks him for anything he's interested in, like saving the dolphins, things like that, you know? Which is why he finds solace in various sea creatures, because they don't make fun of him, and he feels understood, which coincidentally is really similar to Homelander as well, because he too feels alone. But that's because he feels like no one can truly relate to him, due to his godly powers and, you know, all that superiority stuff. But as we know, since season 1, all he's ever wanted were real friends and family. But yeah, it's pretty cool just seeing how they're kind of like two sides of the same coin in some ways. Number 3, a tendency to overanalyze compliments and criticisms. This man does this throughout his entire time during his sabbatical and when he was a member of the Church of the Collective. There, he has periodic breakdowns at playgrounds, shouting about how alone he feels, even though he's being told the reason why he's so alone and what he can do about it. But he chooses to see the things that make him more miserable instead of taking the advice for what it actually is and bettering his situation. A smaller example is when Queen Maeve offered to help him get back into the Seven.
Then you're gonna need a woman to tell everyone that you're not a complete piece of shit. I could be that person for you.
Wait, you think I'm a piece of shit?
Fuck yeah. The point is, I can help you.
He homed in on the criticism instead of what she could do to help him, showing that at this point, it's deeply ingrained in his personality. Number 4, displaying signs of low self-esteem. I don't even think I need to go into that one, low-key.
Idiot.
And the last symptom he actually does is number 5, persistently looking for validation and praise from others, an integral part of his character. It's so bad that he screws over people like A-Train numerous times just to get the Church of the Collective or Homelander's validation. Or during season 4, when right before he's killing an employee, he makes the person praise him and call him his favorite superhero. And this very last symptom he doesn't actually do. To me, it feels like he's always down to put himself or his powers on display, and that's due to his innate overconfidence. But that's 5 out of the 6 symptoms of this complex. And that really makes me wonder and appreciate just how much research goes into this show, because I think it's pretty cool how nuanced these characters are, even the more comic relief ones like the Deep. Now, let's move on to our next section, superiority versus inferiority. How do these two interact with each other? How do they play off of each other, you know? And what happens when you bring these two complexes together? Well, all throughout the show, Homelander displayed pretty much every single trait for a superiority complex. And I'll just do this real quick. Making exaggerated claims of one's accomplishments and abilities. He does that all the time, especially in season 3.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I am better.
Disregarding others' opinions or contributions and placing excessive value on their own.
I worked my whole life to keep that secret.
Well, secrets rot your soul. If you're unburdened, you should thank me.
Sage said.
Fuck Sage.
You know, I'm not gonna get to the rest, but you get it. But while he's doing all that, he's just riddled with insecurities. And that's the cliff notes of this complex, right? Acting superior to others, normally for the purpose of hiding their own insecurities. But the thing with Homelander is throughout season 4, he's been really crossing into the territory of a god complex. And it's been really interesting to see so far. But I'll cover all of that in his own video. So based on tons of research, and I'll link the articles I used in the description, but when someone with a superiority complex gets in contact with an inferiority complex, the superior one will home in on the other's insecurities while acting condescending or dismissive, and the inferior one will internalize that because it reinforces his own low self-worth and feelings of inadequacy, and it'll just be this toxic loop that could potentially last for years. And this is exactly what happens in the show. The Deep was bullied horrendously by Homelander, like it was something fierce, and out of fear he never spoke out. But as time went by, the Deep started to rely on his validation once Homelander started advocating for himself as this greater than thou being, because his speeches reaches that underlying layer of overconfidence that he's always had and even went to therapy for in season 1. And now with Homelander being this sort of twisted inspiration for him, as well as Sister Sage egging him on, he's turning into a more villainous character that demands respect and validation, imposing his will on others just so he can feel validated about himself. This is extremely apparent towards the end of season 4, and I think this is how he's gonna be throughout the final season until he gets killed. And yes, I do think he's gonna die. So how will the Deep be in the final season? Well, in season 1, his arc was about establishing that he gets looked down upon, seeing just how insecure he is about himself and his past bad deeds, with women catching up with him. Season 2 dives deeper into his insecurities and vulnerabilities while he tries to redeem himself after being sidelined from the Seven. Season 3 was about him rejoining the Seven and his gradual submission to Homelander through acts of humiliation and other manipulation tactics on Homelander's part. This is when the Deep started seeking his validation a little more, and as a result his morals started going down the drain, with him killing somebody because Homelander ordered him to. And in Season 4, his path becomes darker, more morally corrupt. Other people are having their hands in the pot now because he's not only being manipulated by Homelander, but also Sister Sage too. And through her, he realizes that he too can control others through fear, and he's finding satisfaction in it. It makes him happy to assert his dominance over others. Oh, and he's also cheated on his wife twice, and is now willing to kill without a second thought. And now Season 5. When President Homelander comes into power, which is so weird to say, by the way, I think the Deep is gonna be his right hand. And if not that, he's gonna be like a villainous but goofy general. He's gonna be one of Homelander's most trusted allies and will at least be a little more respected by Homelander. And that's because he's been so loyal. Like, he literally has a picture in his room of Homelander and him. And who knows, maybe he might take the place of Black Noir. I doubt it though. Or option 2, he ends up having some kind of epiphany and turns on Homelander after being fed up with his abuse. Like, Homelander becomes like the president, and the Deep is still doing everything he says, but their relationship doesn't improve at all. If anything, it gets worse. And now I don't know how this is gonna happen. He could be swayed by Sister Sage again with her whole little thing that she's gonna do in Season 5. The boys could sway him. Maybe Soldier Boy could have something to do with it. I don't know. But these are the only 2 real options I see for him in Season 5, given everything he's done in the previous seasons. And at the end, I still do think he's gonna die, just because I think he is, low-key. But let me know what you guys think. How do you think he's gonna be in Season 5? And more importantly, do you think he's gonna even survive in Season 5, or will he get killed? Let me know, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm really interested. Like, I cannot wait for Season 5 to come out. And I'm also curious to see if he'll eventually develop some new kind of complex, you know? Like, maybe he'll develop his own superiority complex, now that he's tasting this newfound power that he has. But we'll see it when we see it. Till then, like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.